You're listening to Finding My Own Weird, where we'll follow yours truly on a journey to discover my own authentic weird self. I'm your host, Christine Lassiter. Joining me will be amazing guests who found their own formula and are living and thriving as their own wonderfully weird selves. So hold on tight, it's about to get weird. Coming from my small East Texas town and being an 80s gal, big hair, glitz and glam, and enough makeup to cover a multitude of sins was just a way of life. But no one does it quite like our next guest. Emcee, activist, entertainer, and the alter ego of Poison Waters, Darcelle 15 Showplace hostess, Kevin Cook. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Christine, for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, we know Poison Water. You're everywhere. You might be one of the busiest people I've ever seen. I mean, everywhere. And we definitely are going to talk about that. But what I really would love to know is I want to go on your journey. I mean, once you were just this little kid in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about, kind of where you started in life and what it was like growing up.
Sure. So as you just mentioned, I was born in Santa Monica in 1968. My mother and father soon divorced after. I have one sister who's just about a year older than me. In fact, we're 13 months apart. So everybody thought we were twins most of the time growing up. And we moved from Santa Monica right after I was born to LA and actually grew up in the Venice, California area. My mother's Mexican and my father's Black. But when we moved to Venice to be around my mother's family, then I never had any Black family and I didn't know about any of them. Of course, I was just a little child. So my mother's Mexican and Native American. Her entire family came from Santa Fe and Albuquerque, New Mexico. So there were 6 sisters all. My mother's one of 6. So I had 5 aunts with big Latino families all around us. And we were grew up in that kind of community of the sisters and the aunts and the uncles and the cousins. And there was lots of cousins. And the thing with my family was my mother then soon married a Caucasian man. So I was raised by a white stepfather and then my Mexican Native American mother with the Native American and Mexican influence of all of my mother's family. Well, we were extremely poor. And when I say poor, I mean literally like not low income. It was no income more often than not.
Right.
We just, struggled through the late 60s and early 70s. And my stepfather often didn't have a job. My mother would have jobs when she could, but they had 2 more children, my 2 little brothers. And so there were 4 kids, 2 parents, and oftentimes no electricity and oftentimes no groceries and no, things. We didn't have a phone. We barely had a family car half the time. So it was rough, but you don't know what you don't know. This is before the internet, of course, cable television. So you only knew the people that were around you. Well, my mother's sisters, they were kind of in various stages of the same situation. There was definitely a couple of the sisters that we knew, we thought, oh, they were the fancy one. And then there was the rest of us. And we all just, shared and went in and out of each other's homes and apartments and whatever, and grew up together. So I always knew that I was different. My sister and I, of course, having a Black father, already looked different, but I was the darkest out of everybody. And as you can see, I'm actually not that dark compared, when people talk about in the Black community, everybody thinks I'm light skinned, but in the Latino community, everybody thought I was dark skinned. So I never knew, who I was when I started going to school and meeting new friends of different races. And it was always that old story that I wasn't Black enough for the Black folks and I wasn't Latino enough for the Latino folks. And I was just trying to be me. I wasn't trying to be one or the other. This was just who I was. And then of course, the majority being the white folks. And so I gave up way early in the game trying to please anyone because I just knew, well, I can't change the color of my skin. I can't change, the fact that we're wearing the same clothes because we don't have my new ones. I can't change what's going on in my own home because I was just a kid. I mean, this is like, thoughts I'm having between the first and the third grade, just trying to figure all of this out. Um, we, I had so many things, I don't want to say going against me because that sounds negative, but that's really, I had so many marks against me that I couldn't even consider thinking about the feelings I was having that I may be gay. And again, this is, in the early 70s, I was in grade school, although I didn't even know what that word was. It wasn't until you get to middle school and those sort of ages when people started calling you a fag or, queer and that sort of thing. And then you're like, wait, what are you talking about? So growing up, we just did what we could. Two of my mother's sisters were moving to Portland, Oregon. And down there, we called it Oregon. We were like, what is up there? We didn't know there was anything past Sacramento, right? It was like Canada or Alaska, as far as we knew. And so our family was going to move up here to Portland our family was going to join the other two sisters. The families always kind of moved together in bands. So my mother said, well, before we go to Portland, I want to go back to New Mexico one last time where, she was from. So we're, again, where's New Mexico? I'm just this little poor kid in Venice Beach, California. So we get in a van. Somehow we bought a van, and it was my mother and her husband and my three siblings and me in a van with whatever we owned, which wasn't that much if it fit in the van. And we traveled across to New Mexico, and we lived 1 year in Albuquerque and 1 year in Santa Fe. And I remember, fun things about that time, but I also remember it was just more of the same. It was just geography. We were still poor. Jobs were scarce. Jobs weren't being held. I was going to school, making the best of it. My personality was such that I just knew that my family, what I was going through, I knew I was going through something, but I didn't, it wasn't until adulthood that I realized that, there was some trauma there. But I just was, doing the best I could. I knew when I was out of the house, I was having a good old time. And when I was in the house, it was just kind of dark and depressing. And, as I get older and you get out in the world a little, you start seeing, oh, wait, maybe this is not all everyone lives. So then I never really, did much about it because again, I'm a kid, then I'm like in the fourth grade and fifth grade. So I went to school. I was a joiner. If they wanted me in the choir, I was in the choir. If they wanted me in the band, I was in the band. The teachers all loved me because I was always wanting to please adults. I have, like I said, an older sister and two younger brothers. So but I say I'm the middle of four children, which people tell me, well, how can you be the middle of four children? I said, well, my sister's the oldest and the only girl. Then my two little brothers were half white and we were being raised by their white father. So I was just kind of odd man out. And it wasn't anything that I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I just kind of knew it. That was just my place. And so I thought, well, I'm going to find my place outside of the home then. So teachers loved me. I was always trying to be a people pleaser and still am. And I always, wanted to do the extra credit, wanted to clap the chalk erasers, wanted to empty the garbage, anything I could do, and stay a little longer or come in earlier and just do it. And I didn't realize until I was an adult that those are kind of coping mechanisms that just naturally my instincts kicked in. I didn't realize that at the time. I just thought I was having fun at school and I really loved being a part of any kind of club, and I would work in the cafeteria and I would just do any of that stuff. We, literally were on the free lunch program my entire public school from kindergarten to until the day I graduated high school. We just always were. And so in some of the schools, because we did bounce around a lot, some of the schools to be in that program, you did have to do all this extra stuff. So some of it, I was kind of like earning my meal, but I was happy to, because oftentimes, I'd be coming to school thinking, well, I didn't really have much dinner last night. We never really had breakfast. So I'm going to need to do what I can do to make sure I get this hot lunch. And then thank God some of the schools started having breakfast programs. So one, I got to go to school earlier, and two, I got to have breakfast. And again, it wasn't ever something like, I didn't ever feel like shame, like, oh my God, I was the poor kid getting the free food. I was just happy for the food. And I remember one time we had a journaling project in one of my classes, and the teacher said, just write, from the morning till the night and just do it for a week. And we started on Monday. We had to turn it in on Friday. And my mother read it before I turned it in. And I mean, I'm here. She said, can I read it? I said, I love it. She's like, you can't turn this in. They'll, send the date after me or something. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you're saying you're hungry. You're saying that you didn't get to eat. And I'm like, well, I am hungry and I didn't get to eat. So I remember that conversation with her I don't remember whether I turned that in or not. My guess is probably because I was wanting to make her happy. I probably redid a couple
Rewrote
of the
it, changed
pages
it.
or something. So, I just always thought that, and that's really one of the first times I thought, oh, is that a bad thing? I mean, it wasn't like mm, that there was abundance of food and it was being held from me. It just was not. And especially when there was, two younger brothers and then myself, and my sister. So everything was always spread thin. I remember, New Mexico was great. And that's where I really kind of thought, okay, you start getting older and you just start imagining your life as bigger and better. And I certainly had no idea about the drag world or the gay scene. I didn't know anything about Broadway and Hollywood and glitz and glam. I just thought, well, I'm going to be able to live when I'm older. I'm going to have a job, a steady job. Because I didn't know what that looked like, but I knew that I could do it because people did do it just because it wasn't happening in my house. And I thought I would have, a steady living situation. I would always have food. I would always have clothes, and it would just be a happier time. So the singing and the dancing and the art classes and just everything I could do to do all that. I just, I kind of discovered a lot more of that. I think that's where, in the fifth grade, they're like, everybody pick an instrument. Well, I picked the trumpet. I don't know why. I just
Oh,
did.
me too.
And
Me
so
too.
I think there was a lot of starter trumpet players. And so that was kind of fun for me because it gave me something else to do. And I felt so fancy. I mean, just the visual of this beautiful shiny brass instrument. I'm like, this looks like, 6 bars of gold. What is this? And of course there were the schools. And if you wanted to, you could rent one. And of course we couldn't afford it, but then the teachers always
Right.
helped me. Teachers always helped me, get whatever I needed financially. I remember one time my sister and I didn't get to go to, like, the whole school was going to see, it was Pete's Dragon or something, like some Disney movie. So we
I
couldn't go
remember it.
because, yeah, we didn't have any money. So we didn't get to go. My sister and I stayed the whole day in the cafeteria waiting for the kids to come back. They just had us, helping and cleaning. So it was just that. And it just was something that I just accepted, again, knowing I'm just a kid. I don't think I ever was empowered to be like, you can be anything you want to be. And, things are going to get better and you're going to have all this. It just wasn't, that was never like embedded in me. I just had to come up with that on my own. And so when we moved after 2 years in New Mexico, we were moving to Oregon. Well, that was a long trek in that same van. And with the, 4 kids and mom and her husband, well, food and money, again, all of that. It's weird because I never really, until I started, I've been kind of fast forwarding. I've been doing drag now for 35 years. And
Right.
for the first half of that, everybody wanted to hear all about the drag stuff. Well, then people started wanting to dig deeper. So I've spoken to many colleges and high schools and middle schools and just reporters and different things, people doing, papers and classes on this sort of stuff. And so then the more I started talking about it, I didn't ever realize how big food insecurity played in my upbringing. And so even when I tell my story now, and I've never told it in the same way twice, it's just because it's just my personality, different things come out. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm talking about food a lot. But those are the things that I remember. I remember specific things based around meals. And I guess to me, like, food was wealth, food was
Right.
security or insecurity as the case was. Do you remember, like, when you go to well, I don't know, people still do that, at the office or at church, they would have a little styrofoam cup, just a
Mhm.
plain styrofoam and buy the stack of them, buy the coffee or whatever. Well, we had those in our van and we would get half a cup with cold cereal. And then because we didn't have really refrigeration, kind of that canned milk, condensed
Oh,
milk, we would each get, some, and that was like our breakfast. And I remember that so clearly. And again, being thankful that we had that. But I was like, that's got to be some messed up life for 4 kids and 2 parents. And they're literally stretching what little they have to make this trek up to Oregon. So we did that. Our 2 aunts lived here in 2 separate houses. And my sister and I were just recently talking about this not too long ago. We lived in that van for like 6 months in Portland while my stepfather looked for work. We would drive around. We would play in the park all day. This is in 79. So the bottle bill had passed and people were collecting cans like mad. And it was something new to us. Wait, you can collect cans from the garbage in the streets and then you can take it to the store and get money. And it wasn't a lot, but it was more than we had. So we did that during the day. Well, my stepfather looked for work and sometimes he had a job, sometimes he didn't. And my sister and I were like, now wait a minute, we moved here to be close to these two aunts. Why didn't we live with them? I mean, yeah, we were a family of six, but so we couldn't figure that out. We were both young at the time. We are 11
Right.
and 12. We're trying to think, what was the scenario? Why did we not get to live, even if we slept on the couch or even if we slept, so we were in this van, this whole family, the whole time. And we'd be down by the river. I don't ever go past PDX airport without remembering we would park on the river down by Marine Drive and look at the ocean or the Columbia River. And then we would also watch the planes go by. And it was just, you could spend hours and hours when you're homeless, you don't have anything else to do. So, all this time, our family is just kind of existing. It was just, we didn't, again, it wasn't ever something that I feel like I didn't really question it. We certainly didn't talk about it as a family, like what we were going through. Eventually my stepbrother got a job. We had a place to live. We went back to school because that was that whole time we weren't going to school. Because back then, if you didn't have an address, you certainly weren't going to, be registered for school. So we just hung out. Well, then going to school, that's when I came to Portland, Oregon, and people do not believe me when I say this, that Portland is the blackest city I've ever lived in. And Portland is
Wow, that's saying something, really.
exactly. And like when I went to school, I went to the Portland Public Schools in the sixth grade. I'm like, there are so many Black people in this class. And I got to love it and meet the people and talk to, and just be friends. And it was so fun. And then we only stayed in the sixth grade for like half the year in Portland Public Schools. And then we lost our housing. So we moved over to Park Rose, which is East County. So we were on 105th. And we used to be on 66th in Portland. Well, then we were on 105th in Park Rose. And then we went to Park Rose. And then my sister and I, once again, were two of the few Black kids, people of color. And so then we're like, well, here we go again. Well, that's when, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, you start growing and you start going through puberty and you start questioning everything about who you are and what you've been through and where you're going and all that stuff. And it was like, oh my gosh, I literally turned not into an entirely new person. I could see myself evolving. Like I'm changing. I'm not the kid that was in, the van in New Mexico. I'm not the kid who was in Southern California. I'm just like, I could just feel this kind of emergence into where I was supposed to be. And again, I never was really like, woe is me, woe is me. Why is this happening to me? This is, the worst life. I was just like, that I could feel a forward movement. And it's hard to describe. So, junior high, you could be in every club in junior high. And oh boy, and we could walk to school and we made friends in the neighborhood and it was just really fun. We just made it work. There was, some, physical abuse and alcoholism in our home. And it just was still a lot of the same, just dark. And it just wasn't fun, with my siblings and my mom. I remember we would play like a softball game in the backyard sometimes, and that would be fun. Or my sister, she was in cheerleading and flag team while I was the drum major for the marching band in junior high. So we would practice in the front yard with the baton and all that stuff. So I remember a good time. So when I tell people, how I came up, it really wasn't all woe was me. I think I just kind of found the joy in whatever I could, because why not? So school
Well, when
was
you don't know
great.
better,
Yeah.
you don't know better.
Yeah.
You don't know better.
Yeah. And it really is something to say about, this modern world with everything is, you can, on Twitter and Instagram and you're comparing yourself to everybody and the reality TV and even just cable television. Again, none of that was available. And even when it was, we didn't get it till years after everybody else had it because we couldn't afford it. So we really did not have a lot to compare to. We could only just kind of, for myself personally, just question myself. Well, like, who am I? What am I happy with? What am I not happy with? What's happening? So again, it was for me, I always felt odd man out at home. I felt odd man out in the world just because of the color of my skin. And then as I started growing more and more, and people were like, "You're a fag, and you're really feminine, and I just never thought I was. I just thought it was me. I
Right.
definitely had seen, people that I'm like, oh, that person is. Once I realized what gay was, I'm like, that person is gay as heck. And then when people say that about me, I was like, me? I don't think I am. That's just who I am. And so, in junior high, you get pushed into the locker by a football player or, harassed in the locker room at PE and that sort of stuff. So that was just, I was like, well, bring it on, God. I've taken everything else. So now I guess I'm going to be bullied and that wasn't even the word back then of being bullied. You were just,
Right.
I was just the jocks, having fun. Nobody cared. Nobody,
Boys will
teachers.
be boys.
Yeah, exactly. And teachers didn't intervene or anything like that, even though they knew what was going on. And I just, tried to hold my head up high and that stiff upper lip and all that junk and just, put up with it. I'm not a confrontational person. If somebody pushed me or called me a fag, I just ignored them and went about my business. And, I always was chatty and I always was funny and wanting to make, fun of any situation. And so, no, I wouldn't really say like a class clown. People were just, I think, always surprised that even though I really could have been kind of an outcast in high school, I was actually popular and people really liked me.
Right.
And because I was in music and I was in choir and I was in drama and I was in all the things that those are where all the fun people go anyway. And, if we're talking about, weird, find in your own weird, people have said that for years, the band geeks or the drama nerds. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
I don't know if that's who they are, but
I was theater and band. I
yeah,
completely
yeah. I'm like,
relate.
I'll take it. I'll take it. But it's funny because looking back, there were like some really cool people in all that stuff. And they were just as equally popular and very attractive and fit and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, how did people say band geek the nerds when they actually, when you look back, the jocks were kind of the door.
Right.
I'm like, when you look at it, and so it's like, well, whatever. Well, junior high and high school, all was, kind of rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And at that point, then I could really see, I'm like, okay, everybody said, Kevin, when you go to college, you're going to meet people that you are going to connect with. You are going to see the world, meaning outside of Park Road. I mean, and our family, I was never, going to go off to college or going to travel or do any of that stuff. I went to Disneyland with the high school marching band and it was like, oh my gosh, and then our choir, we went to Eastern Oregon. We went on a tour of Eastern Oregon high schools in a bus, but we just thought we were celebrities and the people asked for our autographs and we were singing and dancing for the country kids. And it was really fun. And so making friends mostly with adults, again, all the teachers, my high school guidance counselor, she just passed away this summer. We've been in touch this whole time. And it's just really fantastic. My connection with the senior community, it comes from that. Older people have always been the ones that I kind of clicked with.
Right.
And, I certainly had lots of friends. I had no romantic encounters in high school. Of course, I had crushes on boys that would never even, that wasn't their thing at all. And I didn't even, you didn't even know what that means at that time. And again, as I got older, so, something shifted in high school. I went to high school from 82 to 86, and that's when HIV and AIDS started to come about. So then
Right.
not only was I the fag people would call me the N word still back then. But then it was like, oh, then now there's this third thing because everybody that's gay or perceived to be gay has AIDS and is going to have AIDS. So there was all that started whispering around and coming around. It was just so that really got me because I'm like, wait a minute, what? And so I at high school, off I go to Mountain Community College with a $400 scholarship that I got for, I don't know, something I did at school. And sure enough, my first day at college choir sat next to gay people that were just gay as hell and happy to be so. And like, oh my God, we went to the neighborhood high school. And what is your name? And oh, I'm da, 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 da. And I was like, it was true. I met the world, people of every color and ethnicity and languages and accents. And I mean, it was just Mountain Community College out there in Troutdale, but you can't get more country than that. But it was really, for me, I'm like, I've seen the people. I'm here. This is so fun. It was really cool. And again, any opportunity to not be at home. The year after I graduated high school, because my sister was 1 year before me, she was going to have a baby. and she also went to community college. So we both moved out. As soon as she had her baby, we both moved out of my
Did you move in
family's home.
together?
We moved in together. We got a place, and like our family at that time lived on 92nd, and we got one on 102nd. So we didn't go that
Oh,
far, but we were
pretty
both
close.
we both had jobs. We did, and this literally is that we rented this house. I mean, back then it was nothing, dirt cheap. And we found that's when, rent to own furniture was a big deal. And we wanted to have the opposite of our living experience, the opposite of our growing up experience. So we had all new furniture and everything, we had to be not like, I don't even know who I thought I was, a Rockefeller or somebody like, oh, we have to have a coaster. Well, it's like a laminate plastic wooden pretend table, but no, we have to have a coaster because I just really knew when I'm going to Mountain Community College. I have my own job in retail, Kmart. That was my first job, Kmart. And I am living outside of my family. So nothing that I put up with my family, anything I do with my family, it's gone. I knew it. I'm like, I'm free. I'm out. I'm doing my life. And that's when I was like, I can do whatever I want to do. And so these gay folks are like, hey, we should go out. The more and trust me, first, I was like, oh my gosh, these guys keep calling each other girl and referring to each other as she, and they're wearing, it's funny. You said earlier about tattoos and colored hair and stuff. So this is, 86, 87. And the kind of the new wave punk movement was making its thing again. And so there's mohawks and all these piercings and people, I actually looked quote unquote normal, even though I was the black queer. These people were just like, oh my gosh, safety pins and bright colored green hair and everything. So I was like, okay, listen, who am I? So I made friends with everybody and they said, hey, we should go down. They said, let's go to the city. Well, so Park Roche, it was 102nd-ish and beyond. So I thought the city meant like downtown Portland. They were just saying, let's go to the city. So I get in my friend's car. Well, it was called the City Nightclub, and it was an all ages gay club.
Oh, you thought you were just going downtown.
I thought I was going downtown. We went downtown, and it was this dark, scary nightclub. Everybody smoking clove cigarettes, and it just smells like debauchery. And it's teenagers and stuff, and there's music. There's no bar, so people are drinking soda pop and juice, whatever. And I'm like, I could be a little square. Even today, my friends are kind of like, you're a little, but trust me, I can get wild. But for those days, I was like, ooh, I don't know what this is. And there was the first time I ever saw a drag queen, scared the hell out of me. Saw boys dancing with boys, girls kissing girls. I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. And I hadn't ever really said, I'm gay. Even the friends in college, I didn't ever say, they just knew. They're like, you choir boy, come with us. We're going to have fun. And so I ended up, it was wonderfully fabulous, but I also stopped going to school because it was so much fun to run the streets with them and go shopping. And I would rather work to make money so I could then go play on the weekend.
Right.
And so that was the best thing for me. So I didn't graduate. And even though I knew I had the best music teachers, I was going to be a high school music teacher because those are my favorite people. I said, I'm going to do what they're doing. Well, that was going to take way more than the 2 years I was going to community college. And so I'm like, no, I'm out. And so I had a wonderful long career in retail. I worked for a wonderful local family company called HK Limited, and they were at the malls. And so I worked in like 5 different malls. And for years,
I saw that you worked at Lloyd, right?
Yeah. I was at Lloyd Center before it was covered, and then was there doing the whole construction and the grand.
Wow.
And now it's getting ready to go down the other ways. So I feel kind of old when I go to the Lloyd Center, and then Clackamas Town Center, Jansen Beach, which is now not even a mall anymore, and down in Eugene at Valley River Mall, and then Pioneer Place. When that was built, we opened our store there. So I kind of, did the whole retail thing and learned lots of people skills, lots of great management skills, which I still use today for my work I do now.
And now a word from our sponsor, me. So about 2 years ago, I got the opportunity to buy the house that we were renting. And even though I was in the mortgage business at the time, I was pretty new to it. And I was scared. I was nervous. It's a big deal to buy a house. But luckily, my mortgage broker was my friend and coworker. And what he did was he walked me through this process. He made sure that I understood everything. He took care of things on his side. There were things that were going on that I didn't even know about. And I think that that's so important when you're working with a mortgage broker. That's why when I became licensed, I knew that that's the kind of mortgage broker I wanted to be. I'm here to not only help you buy a home, but to make sure that you do so in the most comfortable way possible. And I'm here to carry the burden of that stress for you. But I'm also here to make it a little bit fun because, let's face it, buying a home should be kind of fun. So if you're looking for a house to buy in Oregon or Washington, you can contact me at Christine@tworiversmtg.com. That's CHRISTINE at TWORIVERSMTG.com, or call me at 903-343-1370. NMLS 224-8608. And now back to your program.
And so I was working at Kmart. I was there for a couple of years, and I saw an ad in the paper. Everything was papers then. They didn't have really magazines unless it was like People Magazine or Vogue. So there was, I think it was called, I want to say it was called, it's funny, the club's called the City Night Club. I always feel like the newspaper was called The City or something in the city. And I've asked a few people around, and because I'd love to go back and look at some of that stuff, but no one really remembers it. It was just a free throwaway paper. Well, they would put ads in there for volunteering. And that's when HIV and AIDS was just really taken over. And I found a thing for Cascade AIDS Project that somebody had told me about, and it was for their PAL program called Personal Active Listener. And they give you a 2 full day intensive emotional, oh my gosh, training. I remember it was in a hotel somewhere, and I was I 18 or was I 19? I graduated high school at 17, so I think I might have just been 19. And it really opened my eyes to what really was at the time, what we knew was the HIV and AIDS situation. So I was in it to win it, because I thought, I got to do what I can. If I'm going to be a part of this community, let's see what it's all about. And they matched me to a wonderful young man who was about a year older than me, and his family had moved from Virginia to get away from the fact that he was gay, and then he had contracted HIV. So he had this wonderful thick Southern accent. They didn't know anybody here. We got to be great friends. We ended up working at the same mall together and kind of like best friends. And then he got sick and passed away.
Wow.
And all this before, I'm even 21. And I've been working with the Cascade Project ever since.
Yeah, you've been there for a long time.
Yeah, ever since, so like 1988, I believe. And so that really taught me a lot about people and how people treated Chris, because everybody knew that I was helping Chris get through what he was going through. And so sometimes people you could really just tell a lot about a person by how they dealt with me and my relationship with my friend Chris. So then at the City Nightclub, I loved to dance. It was the great music from the 80s, right? Michael Jackson was a hit. Houston had just come out. Rick Astley, Taylor Dave, the whole gang, right? So we're dancing, having a good time every Friday, Saturday. Well, the dumb thing about this club, again, it's all teenagers, and teenagers are messy. At midnight, you had to stop dancing and sit on the dance floor to watch this show, or else you had to go outside. I don't want to go outside. Right. I didn't smoke. I want to be outside with the smokers, even though they were still smoking inside. They all went outside to smoke. So they would have a drag show. And I was like, this is so dumb. I didn't understand it. It was just teenagers in a teenage club wearing like their sister's clothes or whatever they were wearing. And thinking that I wanted to dance, and I just thought it was more fun. And I didn't like to sit on the floor too, because I was kind of oppressed and I didn't want to get dirty. So fine. Every weekend, stop, sit on the floor, rinse and repeat, having a wonderful time at that club, just really meeting people, date, starting relationships, and just all that post-teen angst, from 18 to like 21, like all the, we're going to be together forever. And then 2 weeks later, I don't even know who you are. So all that kind of stuff. But just really, again, being out of my childhood cycle, it was great. I was living and I was blossoming and flourishing, to the point I'm like, well, I can't get any better than this. And then one day at the show, they said, hey, everybody, we got a special show for you. So have your seats, did it on the floor. And they said, we have special entertainers coming from the Embers and Darcelle, which I don't even know what that meant at the time. And so the curtain opened and there was four of the most beautiful Black queens. First of all, the first four Black queens I'd ever seen. So they were all Black folks and they were all dressed in white. And I remember specifically, they were like in sequins and rhinestones and pearls and feathers and fur, like real in my
They
mind.
were really decked out.
They were the thing, right? And I realized that, just a light went on because, I came from singing and dancing in school, but then I just thought, well, I guess I'm done with that. And then I saw that and I'm like, oh, wait, drag is for me. I can do that. And it just occurred to me, and I then instantly felt bad. I'm like, I didn't like those other shows because they were just white teenage kids. It wasn't me, and they were wearing like Goodwill clothes. I loved seeing the glitz and the glamour of these queens. And again, my connection with older people again. So these were, at the time they seemed so much older than me, but now they've all been passed away for so many years. And on their birthday, I do a post on social media or whatever, and I'm like, so much older than they were when they passed away. And I thought they were older then, and we actually weren't that far apart in age, but it just seemed like we were. So it was like, wow, now when people say representation matters, and I was like, actually, I
Yeah.
never thought drag was for me until I saw a Black person in drag. And yeah, I just, my friends were like, are you insane? I'm like, oh, then everybody was like, shut up. That's all you talk about. I'm like, oh, they drag queens. And their names was Rosie Waters, Misty Waters, Lady Lane Peacock, and Cerisa 14 of all of Alaska. So it's about,
And then Rosie Waters became very special to you.
yes. And, and they all did because they were so kind and they were so nice and they were so embracing. And, the things, people talk about like a family and the drag family and what that's like. And I know firsthand how important that is. They were so nice to me and so generous. And they wanted to teach me how to do hair and how to do makeup and how to go shopping and let's do all this stuff. And again, this is before cell phone. Okay. You had to write your number down and call and hope they answer, from your home
Right.
phone or literally from a payphone. Hey, I'm downtown. Do you want to come over? That sort of stuff. So it was really fun. And I really feel like that kind of my life just got hyper focused on drag because it just brought me so much joy and so much fun and self-expression and all the stuff that I used to get joy from in, junior high and high school. And then plus I was getting to just be more immersed in the gay world, which I was realizing was where I wanted to be and where I needed to be. And, by then I had already, my family was kind of like, you don't have to come out. We already know you're gay. So let's not
No
even,
surprise there.
no, yeah, let's not even make it a thing, and that was just my family. We weren't that kind of like, oh, that sort of thing. So that was good. So I already had that, checked off. And then when I really did feel like I was sneaking around though, to go be in drag and to
Right.
go shop in drag. And I remember again, living with my sister and her husband at the time and their baby. I just came home one day in drag with Rosie Waters. Robert said, I'm just going to bring you home. He goes, I'm going to come with you. Don't be scared. Everything you said about your family, your sister, she loves you, did that. And as soon as we did, that's exactly what it was. And my sister's husband goes, all we saw was this pretty lady walking up the driveway. And we were like, who is that? And then it was me. And then it was me. And so, so Rosie Waters became my drag mother. And then Misty Waters was Rosie Waters' drag mother. So she became my drag grandmother. And then Lady Lane Peacock was just one of my really good friends. And so, when they said, you're going to be a drag queen and your last name's going to be Waters. So what do you want your first name to be? And I'm like, oh gosh, I don't even know. He's like, you could just be a one-word name like Rosie or Misty, Well, again, I was working at the mall. And I would go to like the fancy stores and smell the perfume on my lunch just to feel like, ritzy. And there was a new perfume called Poison from Christian Dior. And I just loved the bottle. And it was purple and gold and a beautiful green box. And I just thought, I think back then it probably cost like $40. And to me, that was
Right.
a fortune. And I'm like, oh, so I told them, I'm going to be Poison Waters. They were like, no, you're not. That is dumb. That's not a drag queen name. But I just kept it. I just, was stubborn. I think I always have been. And I just like, why? I like it. So who cares? Right. And even through over the years, people were like, you really got to change that name. That name sounds negative. And the first time I went to go work at Darcelle, so they invited me, they said, okay, we want you to work here, but what can we call you that's not Poison Waters? And I'm like, I'm Poison Waters. And I had been for like all of maybe 2.5 years at the time. And like, well, you can change your name out. You can have another name in here and then out in the community be Poison Waters. If you think, your whole 12 followers are going to, be upset. Well, I said, no, I guess I'm not going to work here because I really just wanted to be, Poison Waters. And so I didn't work there. They said, well, so I went back to the Embers where I was hosting and working. And then they just realized, what I had in me. And they said, okay, you can be Poison Waters. Come back to work here. And so I did. And it's funny after I left retail, I worked for the state for 12 years, the Department of Environmental Quality, snooze.
Well,
And so everybody was like, oh, you're Poison Waters because you work for the DEQ. And I'm like, no, Poison
yeah.
Waters is way before the job. So yeah, I'm not that silly. And so then, just working at Darcelle, that's when I just kind of felt another new home, Darcelle. It's funny right now, I'm about the same age he was when we first met. Like I
Wow.
was like 17 and I think he was 56 maybe. And I thought, oh my God, who is this old man? And so now I'm thinking, oh gosh, what are these young drag queens think of me? And so he taught me a lot. Like I never really grew up with a father figure and he instantly was that for me. He was very kind and generous, but he was also, stern and would not let me get away with nothing. Now, Rosie, Misty, and Peacock, to me, I was just like the little sister. They're like, oh my God, Poison, you're so crazy. Da, da, da. Well, Darcelle wasn't having none of that. He's like, no, you get in line.
That military background was like,
Yeah, he really did. And yeah, it really kicked in. And so he taught me so much just really about not just show business, but about being a person. Like he taught me a lot of life lessons, like how to, look somebody in the eye, how to have integrity, how to be honest. He taught me so many things that, you think you would learn growing up, but I just didn't. And then he taught me a lot about business. I mean, really a lot about business. And at a time when I really needed to know that because drag was becoming my main focus and drag was becoming so popular and it would have been really easy for, not that I'm like gullible and ever, but like for people to take advantage of me just because I am a people
sure.
pleaser. Like I think it was years that I'm sure I did drag for 10, 15 years before it even occurred to me to charge. And I think one time somebody just said, how much? And I was like, how much? Wait,
Oh,
what?
how much?
Wait, and, somebody said to me, they said, Poison, I was at this big art auction. They said, you see the sound guy? He's getting paid. See that light guy? He's getting paid. See this caterer? They're getting paid. You're emceeing this whole thing, making everybody laugh, bringing it all together, raising all this money. How come you're not getting paid? And that's when I went, oh, and I didn't know anything about budgets. I didn't know about anything about nonprofit. And that's when I started working in development with the nonprofit that I volunteered with. I wanted to learn about, line items and budgets and how much I knew, we were trying to make a lot of money. So I didn't want to be the one that was taking the money. But so I had to figure out a way, like, how could I still be compensated without them going in the hole, even though I didn't know at the time that wasn't my problem. That was their problem to deal with, to manage their
Right.
budget.
Right.
But I just wanted to make sure I wasn't, I've
It's that
always,
people pleaser.
that's me. And then, also too, these, the people, so, I work with Bradley Angle Domestic Violence. I work with the Oregon Food Bank. I work with all the different housing groups that are, helping people get off the street. And that's, it's not, I don't need a psychiatrist to let me know. I'm doing all those because all those people help my family, not those exact
Right.
organizations, but there's definitely kind of I need to pay back. I need to help. I need to do what I can, a little reciprocal. And then again, when people then were encouraging me to charge for my services, I really struggled with it. I'm like, but they help my family. So I want to help them help other families. But then it took, again, Darcelle and other people to be like, well, you are helping them and they can still compensate you and it's not taken away from what they're going to be able to do for others. So I had to kind of, struggle with that. But now that this is my 100% full-time job,
Right.
everybody pays.
Right.
I don't do drag for free. But it's been a really, really fantastic, just life, it's like, I always, even, as I said, as a kid, I didn't think too far ahead. And even now, I don't think too far ahead. I just try to be present and be the best I can for the people that are counting on me and do what I can. And people say, well, what's going to be like in 5 years or 10 years? I'm like, I couldn't tell you because none of this was a goal for me. It all just
Right.
where I am now, what I do now, how I am now. None of it was a goal. It was just all accidental, happenstance that this gig came along, this opportunity came along, every opportunity that's come my way. I didn't, I didn't have a vision board or, it just
Right.
kind of happened. I'm like, oh, you want me to do this? Or, oh, there's an opportunity to do that. Like I've been saying yes for so long, my whole drag career, I would just say yes to everything and then just, kind of figure it out. And now it really, I hate saying no to people. And the only time, most 99% of the time, the only time I say no is because I'm already scheduled for that date and time.
Right.
And it makes me crazy because I want to help everybody and I want to have fun with everybody, all the different opportunities. So that's, you know what? I just realized you haven't even got to ask a question. I told you I could talk for 6 days.
No, this has been, I mean, it's incredible. And that's what I love is because a journey is a journey. I mean, it is that really long story of where you started and how you got to where you are. You know, you talk about how you seeing black drag, I mean, was such an eye-opening experience. Um, I was able to take my very conservative East Texas mom to your drag show last year. And my mom she never stirs the water. When I said, "Hey, I'm taking you," she's like, "Okay." But I mean, I could see like fear in her eyes, like, "What are you getting me into?
Yeah.
What is going on?" And we were the first people there because I was worried that we weren't going to have enough seats. So I'm like, "We're getting good seats. We're gonna," and it was my first time coming, and I was super excited. So we got there. Mom's on edge. Mom doesn't drink. She drank half a cocktail. I mean, like that's a big, big deal. So she was just nervous about what I was exposing her to.
Right.
And honestly, she had the time of her life. She thought everybody was gorgeous. Everybody was fun and funny and entertaining. And the minute that Darcelle turned around and it's oh my God, I thought she was going to spit her teeth out. She
Got
was laughing so
it.
hard. And even when I told her that I was going to be interviewing you, I mean, she remembered who you were
Oh, that's so sweet.
specifically. And I just, it, people get such these ideas in their heads, you know, of, of, what all of that is. And then when they're actually truly exposed to it, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, that's just some good fun.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Drag queens for, I think ever since drag has been a thing, but especially most recently the last couple of years are really kind of under attack all over from, the overly
oh,
conservative folks and not
oh,
even,
I've seen you been reading and stuff to the
oh,
children in
yep,
every
all
other
that.
parts of the country. Ooh,
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty scary stuff. And so unfortunate because just like you said, so I've been at Darcelle's now since 1990 and Darcelle's this year is 56 years old, the club itself. So we've had
right,
thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people come through that door. And we have the majority of our people are out of town visitors. We have people that are coming to visit their families or just coming to visit Portland. So we perform all the time for people. They say it's our first time. We've never been to a drag show. This is, or this is my overly conservative family that's coming to visit me or da, 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 da. And we've seen the people walk in with their arms crossed and, you can tell
mhm,
that the last place they wanted to be, well, it didn't take long before they're clapping and laughing and, wiping tears. And that's just, it makes us feel good. That means we're doing our job and we want people to feel, we're kind of activists, without even being, we're not marching with a sign. We're just doing our job, but we're opening the eyes to people, letting them know that this is, it's okay. We're not hurting nobody. We're not hurting ourselves. We're actually enhancing society and just having a good time while doing it. And people tell us all the time, I've met so many grumpy old white men that said, you were so fun. Thank you for this show. Or I didn't know anything about myself son or daughter's community and thank you for being a part of it. Now, when I go back to Oklahoma or whatever, I'm not going to worry about them so much. And they just tell us all the time in text and in, messages on Facebook or even in the
Right.
old days, letters to the club saying, thank you so much. I was this way when I walked in and now I'm this way. And people are surprised when we get hired to go do like the elf lodges and the eagles lodges. And they really, I just say all the time, like, well, we're going to go perform for the old white men again. But they really, I appreciate having that opportunity. And I tell people all the time, it's just kind of a joke. I'm like, have you ever been this close to a black man in a dress? And they're always like, absolutely not. But they are like, but this is great. And so
Right.
I love hearing stories like that somebody who maybe was a little skittish or not sure what we're getting into, then realizes, hey, this was good, clean fun and no harm, no foul.
Well, I think that we have to expose more weird, more unusual, more different,
Mhm.
because once those layers are peeled back and people do take the stigmas or their blinders off and actually see real people who have who have been in similar situations as them and have struggled in similar ways. And then they see, the amount of good that you do with all of your charity work, it's outstanding, and truly needs to be commended. Now, it makes it not only less, scary, for lack of a better word,
Yeah,
but it also makes it, joyful. I mean, I that's what drew me here is all of the weird drew me here. It just made me go, oh my God, I didn't even know this is what I needed and where I needed to be until I showed up here.
yeah,
And it we have to keep showing people all of this stuff because
absolutely.
there's a whole world out there that some people never even get to experience
Oh, sure.
because of
And
closed
sure.
minds.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate. And, when people are talking, they're like, why are you doing an all ages drag brunch? And why are you doing this drag queen story time? And I'm like, well, why not? I go, it's not like we're going door to door and grabbing kids and throwing them in a sack.
Right?
We are here. The families, the people that are responsible for the people that want to help nurture them and open their minds are bringing them to us. We're not, they're like, the drag queens, well, no, no. Then they say, well, the parents are like, no, the parents are being good parents. And listen, if
Right.
you don't want to take your kids to a drag brunch, then don't take them to a drag brunch. It's very simple. You
Oh,
know,
my granddaughter will definitely be coming. So
well, we really have been having so much fun. And, this will be my 25th, no, my 23rd year running an HIV affected children's camp. So I've been working with
right.
children, my whole adult life. And so to me, when like now, drag queen story time is kind of newish in the last 5 years or so. And these drag brunches, all ages venues are just now kind of getting new. But to me, I don't even think about it because I've been working with kids my whole time. And so some of the kids'
Right.
families know me in drag. The parents come to see me at Darcelle's, but I don't, at camp, I'm Kevin and out on stage, I'm Poison Waters. And sometimes the families see it, sometimes they don't. And to me, there's just no difference. It's just, we're just all doing what we're doing.
Well, I think it's awesome. It is something that I'm thrilled about and I love and about this community. And you do have something coming up.
Yeah.
Um, you've got your all black drag
Oh my
coming up.
gosh. Oh my gosh. The Hot Chocolate Show. This is our 12th anniversary. And it kind of came from my clear memory of that curtain opening and seeing the 4 black drag queens. I was asked to do a show at Darcelle's for this charity. And they say, we kind of want to do like the Roaring 20s. And I'm like, for the black folks, that wasn't the best time, but okay, I'll see what I can
Right.
do. I'll see what I can do. And so I found this great performance and it had 5 black drag queens. And so we got everybody together and we rehearsed it. Well, we were the only drag queens in the show. So in Darcelle's dressing room, where it's usually bustling, it was just us. We were just down there getting ready. The dancers and the vocalists were out in the audience. So we were getting ready and we had the best time just laughing and talking, and commiserating about, different things. We all came from different we just all had in common that we were Black and in drag. So we were like, this is so fun. We should do a show of this. So this fundraiser is in December. And we said, well, February is Black History Month. So why don't we do a Black show? So we just did it one time thinking it was going to be one. It was a sold out hit. And now we've done it every year. And it's one of the biggest shows in town every year. And I'm so excited. It's February 26th at Darcelle's. And we just have such a great time. It's all Black folks having a good old time. And I just love it.
Well, I think that's awesome. You also do your no cost drag bingo.
Yeah, at the Rogue Brewery, which is, people, I don't know when the breweries and the beer folks decided drag queens were it, but we're a perfect match. And we just have a wonderful time at the Rogue Brewery in East Side, off 9th Avenue. They have twice a month. One night is the all ages, no cost drag queen bingo. And then on the Saturday is all ages, no cost drag queen brunch. And it's really fantastic because those breweries have kind of become like a community gathering space. So people are like, well, why are there children there when there's alcohol? Well, they probably have children and alcohol at their home too. So let
because kids make you want to drink.
Right. I agree. And so those are great. And I just love working with the Rogue Brewery. This is actually we're just wrapping up my first year in partnership with the McMinimans folks. I've been with them for 12 years now.
Right.
And they have a monthly drag bingo that's just sells out every month. It's kind of wild. It's great working with those folks too.
Well, I'm going to be posting all of the ways that people can follow you.
Oh, fantastic.
And you are great about posting all the things that you have going on and things that are Kevin related.
Yeah.
Too, which is very cool to see, the person behind the wig and the makeup. And I think that's awesome. So that'll all be posted when I get all of this set up. And I have one more question for you.
Sure.
So for somebody like me who's really trying to find their true authentic self, whatever that looks like, what advice would you give somebody who has had that kind of push down for a long time, but now they're searching for it?
Yeah. Well, I could just give advice from like where I found mine is that listen to your gut. I always say, as long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else, then just go for it. Just let yourself guide yourself. Also, surround yourself with fun, weird people too. I mean, you may have grown up with a certain type of people, but those people you might have outgrown them. So maybe you find a new tribe. If you just start clicking with people, don't think about it, feel it. It may not make sense on paper to you, but once you just get that good feeling around the vibe of these people, then those might be your new people. And also the last thing I say is do something that scares you. If it's not scaring you, you're just going to kind of go a little stale. You have to do like all the stuff that I think has brought me to be who I am and where I am. Scared the heck out of me, but I just knew I had to take a chance because, if you don't take a chance, well, then you never know. And so maybe you'll take a chance to do something wild and it really wasn't for you. Well, then, and you can check it off the list.
Like start a podcast or something like that.
Right. That's right.
Well, this has been a blast. I thank you so much for coming on today and for all that you do. I mean, just the joy that you give. I always get excited when I see things that you're doing out in the community, and you're making a difference with all types of people. So even if they don't send the text or the letters or messages or anything, there are people who walk away from something you've done a changed person. So thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you. I certainly hope so. That it does make me feel good when I meet folks who say things similar to that I have no idea who they are. And they're just like, oh, I saw you at the Meals on Wheels event, or I saw you at the, whatever event. And I'm like, oh, you never know who's watching. You never know who's listening. So, well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed my time with you today.
Well, fantastic. Well, we'll be seeing you soon. Okay.
Okay. I look forward to seeing you in one of my audiences soon.
All right. We'll see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Just to listen to Kevin's background and to see how he used it as a catalyst for bigger and better things is mind-blowing. My main takeaway from this is you've got to find your own band of like-minded weirdos. who embrace and encourage you, and then you need to do the same for them. You can only be your true, authentic self if you're in a safe space to do so. Be sure to follow all the links for Poison Waters and take a look at their calendars to see all the cool things they're doing in the community. And then next week, I'm going to be traveling back in time more than 30 years to reconnect with my high school friend, Brooksane Camper. She'll take us on a journey of how this small East Texas girl serendipitously found herself in a string of eclectic, bizarre jobs, creating costumes for a who's of characters. We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Christine Lassiter, mortgage broker at Two Rivers Mortgage. You can contact Christine at the links below as well. And be sure to like and subscribe to Finding My Own Weird at Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcast to learn how I'm finding my own weird.